Hi, everyone, and welcome to this comprehensive overview on the layer editor and everything to be found in it. There's a lot of stuff in there, but really I just want to make sure you know how to navigate around it or where to find what you need and so forth. So we're going to go ahead and use this building footprints layer. First of all, you'll be in your admin panel. You'll note that there are several tabs up here. You want to be in the Layers tab. So you'll then from there click the layer in question, and this is where you're brought to the actual layer editor. So this is a layer of building footprints that I've used in many FAQs and other videos in the past. And it's a great example of just a general layer that's going to have all of the functionality within the layer editor, to be found pop up for you here. So let's just go through it. Some of this will be very basic, some might fly out over your head, and anything in between, that's fine. And I will point you in the direction of other specific FAQs that can help you out with some of the functionality on here as we go along. So first and foremost, this is where you obviously can change the title. I can add a description. This can be very helpful for when you're making maps with many layers down the road. So I highly encourage you to add a description. You can also set the min and max zoom rate for a layer, meaning when that layer will appear, by basically bookending the zoom levels for that layer. You'll also see attributes show up. Now, this is a pretty basic layer in terms of the attributes behind it. You'll see it just has elevation, but if there were many more attributes on this pop-up, all of them are going to be over here, and you can add attributes and delete attributes as well in this little attribute box. Let's see, beyond that, before we jump into some of the tools, you can also edit features in the layer editor as well as in a map. Now, how do you do that? You want to click Select Shape right here, and then click the shape, and then you could drag these. I'm not going to manipulate this layer because I use it a lot, but you could drag these vectors and or vertices and make some changes to that polygon, same as if it were a line or a point. And you can also add a line, point, or polygon here using this editing little toolbar. Again, very similar. I would just drag and make a polygon, point, or line with my cursor. Now, what is this tab over here? This is what allows us to style the layer itself. You're going to see, obviously, it's defaulted to point, and first I'm going to change this to pan. Defaulted to polygon because this is a layer of polygons. I can change the stroke. You'll see it's getting thicker. I can change the color of the stroke. I can also change the fill color. So key to know here is that you can make a layer transparent. That can be very useful for example, if you want to have several layers overlap each other to highlight areas of that overlap, whether that's for mapping density or occurrence or a whole laundry list of applications there. Also, just for stylistic purposes, this is where you're going to change colors, whether they're opaque or transparent. You can also change the text on the labels here. And this down here, as we go farther, is really where the magic happens. So I'm not going to go too deep into each of these because we have specific FAQs for them, but I'm going to let you know what they do briefly. Conditional styling means that I could add a rule, and all of the features in my layer that fall into that rule's logic will change accordingly. So this layer, like I mentioned earlier, doesn't have that much on there, but let's say I have a layer with a bunch of buildings, and there's small buildings, medium buildings, and large buildings. And I assign small buildings a 1, medium 2, and large 3 in the attribute table. Now I could go to this conditional styling tool, and I could say when building size, obviously this isn't in here, but building size equals 3, make it red. And all of the buildings that I have deemed as large would show up as red, everything else would show as yellow, and you would see that reflected in the map. We have a great conditional styling FAQ also in this layers section of the FAQ, so I encourage you to check that out after watching this video. Likewise, we have our Chloraprep tool. I won't dive deep into that, but that is also a feature that we have a full FAQ on, again, in the layer section, which we're in right now with this video as well. It's similar to conditional styling, but different in that you can essentially add a color progression or color ramp. But that would be something you'd want to see our Chloraprep video on. Heat maps, these are great. For point data, this is a polygon file, but for point data, you can make heat maps with Map Mavin. We have an entire FAQ on that I encourage you to check out. And finally, we have this 3D fill extrusions tab for 3D layers. Again, there's an FAQ on that as well. Go ahead and check that out. We finally have the ability to manipulate the legend color-wise down here. Don't forget about that. And that's pretty much going to be what you're using this section of Map Mavin for. The real key to emphasize here is that the layer editor is where you go to work on a specific layer. Now, you can do that in a map project, and you'll see that if you watch some of our other videos. But this is where we really deal with the nuts and bolts of a particular layer. We then add that layer to a map, and we start to stack layers to really build a project. But if you want to make stylistic changes or use a whole series of data visualization tools that I just pointed out to you, this is going to be the place to do it. If you're in the middle of a stylistic change or data visualization and you want to add or remove features within your layer, we've given you that ability up here as well. So once you're done, you click Finish, and those changes will be reflected in the maps containing that layer and in the layer itself. So there you go. And as always, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to support@mapmaven.com or to myself, Fletcher@apollomapping.com, and that's FLETCHER at Apollo, APOLLO, mapping.com. Thanks.